Motorola's been pretty quiet in recent months, with several of their new releases creeping under the radar whilst the big boys like Samsung, Huawei and Apple throw a wealth of controversy into the mixing bowl of 2019 tech. This is the Moto Z3 Play, a mid-range device from the Lenovo subsidiary that caught my attention the other week, mainly because it was sat on Damien's shelf doing nothing and I asked to borrow it. So yes, thanks to the legend from Yorkshire, hey guys, my name is Ryan Thomas, and this is the Moto Z3 Play review. Performance pleasantly surprised me on the Z3 Play, despite its middling specs with an outdated mid-range chip, 4GB of RAM and an Adreno 509 GPU. The smooth and seamless navigation of basic pre-installed apps, social media like Twitter, and using the camera was great. However, what really wowed me was the stellar 3D gaming performance. From what I've read online, the Snapdragon 636 was never really that good even when it came out, but from what I could tell, it really works well in a game called Real Racing 3, which I've been playing a lot recently, and will feature a lot more in another phone review that's coming up soon. Those of you who follow me on Instagram, @here, will know exactly what I mean by that. The same rapidity can be found in Wi-Fi performance here too, on its Wi-Fi AC radios, as well as the very well placed side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which unfortunately isn't in the same spot as the lock button for some reason, and whilst we just happen to be talking about exterior features, the button layout on this device is kinda laughable. I mean, what the hell were Lenovo thinking of with this? The lock button's on the wrong side, the volume buttons are on kind of the opposite side, and then the fingerprint scanner, which also works as an unlock, is on the other side as well. I don't really like it. I actually prefer all my buttons to be on the same side, but even so, I would rather they swap the volume buttons to be on the left side and the lock button to be on the right, if they had to be separate anyway. We also happen to lose out on the headphone port, which is an unfortunate thing on a device in this value sector of the market, although USB 3.1 over Type-C is speedy, so props for that. Most of the time we only get USB 2.0 over Type-C or maybe USB 3, but never 3.1. We get this large camera bump which acts as a guide for the Moto mods which connect via these pins. Those mods can be used on all Generation Z devices, which is something I found out only the other day when I was messing around with the Moto mods and the battery back on my desk, and with Callum's broken Moto Z. More on the Moto mods later though. The feel of a modern Moto device in the hand is fantastic, with this being absolutely no exception. The glass and metal construction scream the word premium, and while the buttons are a little bit loose, they click really nicely and the power and lock button has a rigid pattern. Very nice. The included battery back Moto mod does do a good job of keeping the battery full until the end of the day. However, if those of you who want to use the phone naked or with a case, you are going to have to top up during the day, which is fine because we do get a version of fast charge here, which you can use at lunchtime and it will top up. And I guess for the people who are buying this phone, you might not use your phone as much, you might not be as much of a power user as someone who's buying a flagship, so those are cons and pros there. However, in my personal testing, comparing it to the likes of the OnePlus 6T that I'm using right now, and other flagships and older flagships, I think 3000 mAh just isn't enough in a phone with a 6-inch display like this. Motorola software is a tough one, because on the surface, it seems a lot like something you'd find on a Pixel, with a very familiar stock aesthetic, but from what I can tell, and from what the community has told me via feedback, software updates tend to be a problem after just 18 months, since Lenovo acquired the once legendary brand, which really isn't good. This particular model did get Android 9.0, which looks and feels great, but the likelihood of the Z3 Play getting Q is pretty low, and if it does get it, it's going to be pretty late. The near 6-inch wide Full HD AMOLED display definitely has a lot to do with that sleek look and feel of the phone. I've noticed that more recently, displays from Motorola sport these fantastic colours, and this is no exception. It's crisp, clear, detailed and easy on the eyes while sporting great colours and exceptional viewing angles even for an OLED. I really enjoy playing games on this bad boy, and watching YouTube videos from my favourite creators was equally enjoyable thanks to the 18:9 aspect ratio and rounded corners. Two things that I did hate on when they first came out but now have really grown on me. It doesn't get as dim nor as bright as my Note 8's panel or my OnePlus's panel, but is far better than the majority of mid-range IPS LCDs, especially getting dim for comfortable viewing in bed, which is an often overlooked quality. Motorola's always on display is by far the best, just the fact that you're able to interact with it compared to something like Samsung's or OnePlus's, where it's just static and sits there and sometimes doesn't even come on, is just, it just blows everything out of the water, and the fact that you have those gestures and the controls. So your phone can lay flat on a desk, you can wipe your hand over it and instantly get access to that always on display. The 12 megapixel camera on the Z3 Play is pretty good. It's not going to compete with the recently announced Pixel 3a series, but equally shouldn't disappoint you at all. It has a 5 megapixel depth sensor attached, which supposedly helps with portrait mode. The edge detection and overall realism isn't amazingly convincing, and very often those extra depth sensors do nothing more than flesh out the spec sheet. Colours and sharpness, I would say, are strong points for the camera, with dynamic range just falling short due to the slightly underwhelming processing. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but if I had to label a bad point, dynamic range would be it. The camera app is pretty plain on the surface, which allows for a very clean and easy to use design. However, there are some manual options hidden behind certain settings, which is something that I couldn't figure out to start with, so I kind of have to give Motorola kind of bad points for that. However, they are there, you just got to figure out how to use the camera app. A review of this device wouldn't be right without a little bit on Moto mods. We've had this concept since the Moto Z with this magnetic attachment and pins on the back of the phone. When you consider that these mods are half the price of a good used phone, it starts to make you wonder why Lenovo even thought this was a good idea. There are few options here, with the biggest section being speakers that don't quite sound as good as discrete Bluetooth units, but cost triple as much and leave the phone feeling pretty chonky. The one included in the box with this device is a bundle package, so it gives you a 2000 mAh extra battery, which I think is good and it makes the phone feel a lot more ergonomic. However, I probably just would have fleshed out the phone and added the battery in there anyway. I wouldn't have really cared if it was a Moto mod, and I get that everyone has their own preferences, but I feel like they could have fleshed out the phone, made it a little bit thicker, and maybe made the battery mod a little bit smaller. And obviously I talk about used phones all the time, but there's not really a used market for these Moto mods. Going on eBay, there are a few selections on there, especially like the Hasselblad camera attachments get sent quite a lot, they get sold quite a lot, but they're still very expensive, even in used condition, sometimes in very poor condition. So I don't think that it's really worked out for Lenovo here and Motorola, because there isn't a used market, because there was never really a market in the first place. No one was buying them new to sell used in the first place. And now's the big one. Now's the bit that ruins the entire review. The reason that I cannot recommend this phone, and that is the price. This phone comes in brand new at £400 or near and around that. And I just don't think that's good enough. When you consider what you can buy for £400, a OnePlus 6T refurbished, you could get the newly released Pixel 3a if you want a brand new device, several different iPhones, Galaxy S9s. There's so much you can get for that amount of money, and there are so few Moto Z3 Plays on the market in eBay and Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree that it kind of makes you wonder, like, what are Lenovo doing with the Motorola brand? I'm not going to go off on that because maybe I'll save that for another video and talk about Lenovo's acquisition of Motorola, which happened a fair few months or even years ago. As a general phone, I think the Z3 Play's pretty good. I really like the way that it felt in the hand, and using it as a daily driver, even compared to a Note 8 or to a OnePlus 6T, just worked fine anyway. It wasn't like I was missing out on much. However, the one big thing is the price, and if there's none on the used market, then you really can't adjust the price, because obviously the manufacturers control that. This phone sits in around the £200 mark for me, because it's very comparable to the Mi A2 Lite, which I think is actually a better phone for the money and significantly cheaper, but obviously lacks some of the nice things like the OLED display and the better cameras that are featured on this model. Do I recommend you buy it? No, but if you're getting one, or if you've got one and you think you should upgrade, I don't think you should. It's a good phone, and it might not last more than 6 months going into the future, but that 6 months can be a long time. A lot can change, a lot can come on the market, a lot can change your mind. And with that, I'm going to leave today's video here. Some of this was off script, so it kind of sounded a bit strange, and also my lip is slightly swollen, so sorry if I sounded a bit weird. For those of you wondering, yes, I am now part of Team Android Authority, and I'll be posting videos to there. I'll try to keep up with videos on here as well. I'm currently part-time there, so I'll be posting videos to this channel right now. Just continue to do that. However, in the future, I feel like maybe I'll slow down the production a little bit because I'll be working full-time for them. Anyway, my name's been Ryan Thomas. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do like, dislike, comment, and subscribe if you're new to a video like this one. Also, check out my social media. All links will be in the video description as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.